This video is about my Apache configuration on my production server sam.buscompanyx.com. In particular, I'm going to talk about the SSL, how it was enabled. In this terminal window, I am SSH'd into the server, and the directory I'm in is the Apache 2 directory for the Apache configuration. I'm going into the site's enabled directory. This indicates that Apache on Ubuntu, because this works differently in different Linux distributions, Apache is loading these two configuration files. These are commonly referred to as site configuration files, and it is said that these are virtual host configuration files, because in Ubuntu, this is how Apache handles hosting more than one website. The way this effectively works is that these two configuration files are loaded by Apache after it loads its main configuration file. The way that I have it set up, the directives in the first file, buscompa.conf, those directives handle the case where a request is made of the web server on port 443. The other file, port80.conf, that one was intended for handling requests to the Apache server that are made on port 80. When I say requests made to the Apache server on port 80, actually, these are requests made of this machine on port 80, and they are being listened to by Apache. Likewise for port 443. You see here, those are symlinks. They're not the actual files. So in order for me to show you the actual files, I'm going to switch to the directory in which they are located. I'm doing this by doing this cd command, which goes up one directory and goes down to sites available. So let's see what's in this directory. These are all the virtual host configuration files. This one and this one are the two that are enabled. So let's take a look at what's in buscompa.conf, the one that's for port 443. I'm going to use nano. The first directive that you see here is one that says if module mod SSL. That means that the directives in here are intended just for things which pertain to SSL, and only if the SSL module is installed. At least that's my understanding. There's another directive here that starts with the word virtual host, which specifies that these directives that will follow apply to requests which come in on IP 67.227.229.47 on port 43 of the machine. The first set of directives are for aliases for the server. Actually, the first one is for server name. The other ones are just aliases. After that, there's a directive which specifies that the server admin has an email address of schoolbuscompany@gmail.com. This directive down here, document root, specifies the document root for Apache. I won't get into what the document root is, but it's different from the project root. Over here are some lines that I've commented out, and I've replaced them with these lines. These are basically some directives which apply to the directory for the project. Next, we have some directives which specify things that relate to the logging mechanism in Unix as it applies to the web server, as it applies to this module. The really important stuff, which is more relevant to the subject of this video, is what comes next. I'm going to scroll down a bit. Here, there's a directive which tells Apache to enable SSL for this virtual host, SSL engine on. Then there's three directives which specify the values for these three Apache variables. And these variables essentially hold the location of particular SSL related files, like the private key, the CA bundle, and the license that came from the authority which grants these SSL certificates. Down here I have some commented out lines, and then I think the rest of the configuration is just boilerplate. Let me go down. Okay, this file originally was a boilerplate template provided by Ubuntu for Apache, and I modified it. So the things that I don't know what they are, they were there in the template. That's how they got there. So this covers the buscompa.conf, which is for the virtual host. Let me go to the top of the document here while I'm talking. So this is the configuration file for the virtual host when Apache responds to a request on port 443 on the only IP address on that machine. Okay, there's something I need to explain about how a user would arrive at the website for my app. They can type underdog.zone as long as they don't put an HTTPS : / in front of it, because that would result in an HTTPS error showing up like this one. You see that? Now, the reason that if they type just underdog.zone, the reason that it will go to my website and then it will reveal the true domain name, which is buscompanyx.com, in the URL box of their browser, is that I have a DNS record which redirects, and this is on my DNS server, it redirects the browser of the user to the machine and to the HTTP Apache server on this machine. After the page loads, because of the response of the server, it tells the browser that this is actually buscompanyx.com, and it will appear as being HTTPS. Let me demonstrate this, okay? Go to the browser, type underdog.zone, and then hit enter, okay? So now it says buscompanyx.com, and it says that it is HTTPS, in other words, using SSL. I'm going to get lazy here, and I'm going to let my old video do the rest of the explaining. And if that's not reason enough for this behavior to happen, there's actually another configuration that I have for Apache, which also gets loaded, and it relates to the event where I programmed Apache to redirect HTTP requests to become HTTPS requests. And in that case, with that HTTPS request, it is being rewritten, no matter what the domain name is in the request, to be buscompanyx.com. More stuff from an older video of an older video. Okay, one of the things that I've rediscovered is there's two types of Apache virtual hosting. There's name-based virtual hosting and IP-based virtual hosting. The one that I'm using is IP-based virtual hosting. And apparently that's the type of hosting that I had to use because I'm using an SSL certificate. And there can only be one SSL per IP address. So once I decided to use IP-based, that ended up with me having only one virtual host file, since my server has only one IP address. Okay, here's the port80.conf, which I mentioned earlier. Remember, there's only two enabled virtual host configuration files that are enabled in sites enabled. So I have one enabled virtual host, port80.conf, for any requests which come into port 80. and I have another one. The other one is for port 443, which is the SSL port. So when Apache receives the request on port 443, then it goes to the configuration file exit so we can see the names of the configuration files. Here's the port 80 conf. The other one is buscompa conf. So let me do nano buscompa conf. That one responds to requests which are made at port 443, and the IP address is specified also. Okay, so let me get out and see if the other one specified an IP address. Okay, the other one basically has an asterisk. It catches any IP address, but the server only has one IP address. Okay, the rest of the older video talks about log files, and I'll be maintaining logs programmatically in my web application. I may want to someday turn off the logging in Apache so that it doesn't use up too much hard disk space, and then my server may run out of hard disk space. Okay, that's it for this video.